Hello and welcome to ThePrint. We do get a lot of content around Kashmir, and we do have had a history of content around Kashmir from films to now web series. So what makes Tanaav interesting and different from the rest? For me, as a viewer, I think one of the key elements in this show is how it looks at both sides of the tension or Tanaav and presents them as humans rather than for and against. And I think a lot of that credit goes to the maker, Sudhir Mishra. And we have, of course, Rajat Kapoor, who's been an integral part of the show, both the seasons. So
he tells me what to do and then I do it.
So we have that information now.
Yeah, he's as good a director. No?
Yes, of course. So we have the second season coming up now. So what do we expect from the second season after the first one?
Same, hopefully. I mean, but that's what you just said in your introduction, that what we tried to do in Tanaav 1 was that there was the cost on both sides.
Right.
And the women suffer the most. The collateral damage is the children, the women. So we tried to tell the backstories of even the so-called, bad guys, So even the intelligence people, we tried not to make it a Hindu versus Muslim, that kind of show. So, this at this side and that. I mean, there's a lot of nuances in this show which I don't know if people catch. But, the STG, the task force, is also, one main guy, Doron in this is a Muslim. Right. His name is Kabir Farooqi, there's Bilal, it's not a them versus not two countries, it's the same country, it's our country, and there is a complexity in the whole thing. So even in that side, there's Junaid, who's kind of like in middle of, who starts off as a fanatic and goes into the, on a kind of a middle path. So where he's the main bad guy has got many, people against him, and some of them are from his camp, let's say. So that Kashmir is not some homogeneous, everybody agreeing when there's bad guys and good guys. So if you take Rajat's character, so he's Malik, but he deals with his counterpart on the other side of the border is also Malik.
Right.
So it's Malik and Malik, right? So, I mean, I don't know how many people get that message, right? So that's what it is, and there is a complex interrelationships in there, whether it's Rajat's character and Manav, whether the women, whether it's Junaid, the Manav character, and the Dr. Farah. That story continues, so it's a complex story of betrayal and loyalty, and whether to self or country or, your kind, your people. So it's pretty, complicated.
What is right is so complex in a situation, in any situation. But especially in a situation like this, what is the right thing to do? What is the moral thing to do? And those are the dilemmas that they deal with.
So often, there used to be a time whenever there was something made around Kashmir. I mean, if we look at early 2000, for example, when there was a film, it often, of course, became a very black and white binary sort of representation. Or it became often, unfortunately, about religion. And we do see the repercussions of it, because for the common people, what they watch on screen sometimes is the gospel truth. What they watch on screen on Kashmir is, in our minds, what Kashmir is. But it's not just Kashmir, it's any representation of any particular community to state you watch on screen repeatedly becomes the truth.
What made us the happiest was when we went in to shoot the second season in Kashmir. Right. The Kashmiris had all seen it, and nobody was, at least we didn't listen to criticism, or they hadn't disliked it, rather they quite liked it.
So I was just coming to this, when, like you said, your character is dealing with, of course, some peace talks. I mean, there's negotiations going on, but there's also like you're handling somebody who's, for lack of a better word right now, I think it's slightly volatile, in the sense like this is a person who wants to go against and, or has come back, has been called back and brought back and all of that. So this is a character who has to maintain that balance as well on a constant everyday thing. So what were because he said like you are also an excellent director yourself and you're an actor. Were there inputs from your end that, okay, this character has to look a certain kind of balanced?
No. As an actor, I don't think so much.
Right.
Because I think all that thinking has been done for you by the script.
Right.
Actually, So I think this is my process of the lack of it, that try to not think. And also the responsibility and the final crafting of it is with the director and the editor. So you just do what is reasonably truthful at the moment, for the scene. And then the making of the performance is not in your hand. I feel that happens at the editing table. That happens with how it's been shot and so on. So I just try and do my lines correctly. Actually.
He's underplaying.
But it's true. It's
He
true.
brings a certain,
That's what I was going
also
for.
a
It's like
certain
when-
sensibility. Just anyone playing that intelligence person,
Right.
and Rajat playing it is a vast difference. He's not snarling, for one. So, and the Manav character is a bit like his weapon,
Right.
whom he has to use rather tentatively, right? And sometimes he has to let him go, sometimes pull him back. So that relationship is also quite interesting. So he's right. Actually, his character Malik is running the show. This is the rest are working for him. The buck stops with him, and then of course with the government on top. So which he's also handling, in a way. So quite a very well done by him. And he brings it out. No, just anybody would not. He would snarl. He would make statements. Right. He just kind of indicates this and that. It's wonderful.
I think that's the reason I asked, because I think we have also, as audience, gotten used to a certain type of intelligence heads, a certain type of spy, right? Like it becomes, over and over, if you see a certain guy, we even know to the extent कि gun वो कैसे निकालने वाले हैं pockets.
Wow. You've been watching a lot of it.
And that is where, when we say that the audience now knows, what it wants to watch जब हम बोलते हैं, I think it comes from that, because you've been fed a certain kind of content कि हमें भी पता है gun ऐसे निकलता है, हम imitate भी कर रहे होते हैं ना as audience की in real life. So I think that was what I, was going for, because it's a very different kind of intelligence head. You don't find him slamming files and screaming at things. Sarcasm, yes. Occasionally, I think when he's...
Have you seen season 2 or are you talking of season 1?
I have. Just not very sure how much of spoiler allowed to give.
Oh, you've seen season 2.
So
You must have seen those 6 episodes. Though.
Okay, so then you've seen more than I have.
So what I was basically going for is, okay, there are like elements of sarcasm where he's dealing with at least Manav's character, Kabir. But yeah, it's not like a snarling character. It's not somebody who's losing his cool.
In fact, if you go forward, you'll see Malik, and it's a pretty complex tale between Malik and Malik.
But again, I would reiterate what I said, because it's again about casting itself, which they have done. So Manav is playing a certain character, and Manav is playing because Manav is a certain person also, So when you cast somebody in a role, you're also borrowing that person for their being, So I can't do the other thing.
Right.
I can only do it this way, So.
Coming back, so the first season to now, it's been, some time. Interestingly, Fauda, which is the Israeli show, which again became very, very popular and everybody started watching. Politically, things have changed in Israel. Politically, things have now changed a lot in Kashmir. I'm not talking about good, bad. I'm just saying politically, of course, things have changed in both of it.
Sure.
So how much of that was in mind when, let's say, this season was being conceived?
Fauda is the plot.
Right.
I don't tend to watch it too much. Because then it kind of tends to influence you. I'm not... First of all, I'm not a big fan of bang action.
Okay.
So for me, it has to have some emotional content, some layer, even an action scene. So if you see in the first one, the action scene between the Kabir, Manav, his father, there's a kind of emotional, as you go further. So that's what we've tried to do. And of course, Kashmir is, when you adapt something in Kashmir, this is before 370. Right. So this is a Kashmir that's not the present day Kashmir. But still, of course. If you see it, I don't know how many people will see it with that attention. Right. Because but when you do, it's like when you see Jaane Bidaro, you see that it's a dark film, you see it, you laugh, and then it ends, right? So, I mean, do you see that? I don't know, but it's there, I think. In the Junaid character especially, in the Farah character especially, there's a complexity there. And they are the collateral damage of Kashmir. You see Gaurav, Farid's mom, you see his sister-in-law, you see his brother. So that's Kashmir, no? I mean, so you have, the way you adapt it. Of course, the plot is almost the same. Some places we change it, it doesn't work because two countries. The same one.
So, like you said, you haven't. Did you watch like the?
I saw 1.5 episode of the first season. And
That's it.
And I got bored, actually.
Okay.
I got bored. It didn't interest me too much. But in that 1.5 episode also, what moved me, it was the wedding, the first season, first episode. And the faces, the Palestinian faces, I was like, wow, we haven't seen these people on screen.
He's talking about father.
Right.
Yeah. So that left an impact. And when we shot the first season, then also I remembered that the casting they've done of the Kashmiri people, those faces are beautiful. And each character has been very, very meticulously picked. And again, because, what you're talking about representation and so on earlier, you don't see those stories told from their perspective. You don't see the beauty of that space, those faces, the houses. And you need to see that, to feel anything first, it has to become yours.
Okay. So now again, let's say all of the first half of this year or a bit of last year, we have also seen films that have a certain political leaning towards Kashmir. And some of them have been wildly successful. And again, what I'm trying to say is that's ultimately the point, that the audience who's going to watch, for them that becomes the truth. Because people don't read. Unfortunately, we are more used to 30 seconds.
Unfortunately, those that claim to be secular have not taken it up. So there is only one narrative that goes, right? So the failure of the left liberal is pretty much obvious when we deal with subjects like this. I mean, we can always criticize the other side.
And we keep the alternative?
But I mean, you have, say you're talking about, for example, Kashmir Files, right? Let's name, Vivek, we are all part of the same. So, Vivek Agnihotri took up that subject. Why didn't anyone else? Why didn't anyone before take up that subject and tell it in another way? So the problem is you leave things. You don't touch it. The left liberal in India wants the reality to fit into his view. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Right? You got to look at the world and react to it the way you have to. So that's the problem that people. So I think, Fauda can't, Tanaav can't claim to have this, some mission that sort of explaining to people. But still, I think what Rajat is saying is right. The way you deal with the human beings, the way you deal with, let's say, even Omar, the villain's mother and family in the first season, right? So it brings you insight, so then you naturally start seeing things from there. So you see the cost on this side and you see the cost on that side. Of course, everybody's against a terrorist who blows up children. Everybody is.
But I guess at least that gives an option for the audience to see and decide for themselves, as opposed to being told this is how you should see something. And at least there's that, agency probably.
But that always happens, not for forever. That there is a certain overriding narrative about history, about things. And everybody we also believe stuff that we were told, So you try and fight it and you try and learn more or educate yourself a little more. But the fact is that you grow up in that environment in that bubble of where this is the truth, and then every generation has to go through that and discover the truth on their own. Not everybody will do it, but those who want to will.
Okay. I want to ask something. So, of course, considering you've been acting for so many years, does it still happen in a show like this? And something that is dealing with a lot of complexities, it's dealing with so many, even political ideologies, I would say. It's not one versus the other sometimes. Like you said, there are so many within those one versus other that there are multiple one versions that, doing a scene or a moment becomes difficult or challenging for you.
Never. Because really, I'm telling you, don't think.
Right.
The thinking has been done by the script, by the person who wrote the character, and who made a graph of it. My job would be to kind of understand that graph and say, okay, I'm not going to reveal everything here. Maybe another shade here, that's it. But I'm not thinking, what will it mean? That's not my job as an actor.
And do you find anything in particular interesting in the character that you play? Particularly something that's
In this?
Yeah.
No, it's just, there are many shades, which is nice. And he seems like a smart guy. He seems like an intelligent guy who is showing less than what he knows, probably. So that's an interesting aspect too.
I want to know from both of you, are there like moments when, for example, I am a diehard literature, student, have been, and whenever I would read a book and I would find a character that was interesting, you would want to, in your head, be that character, like in real life, of course, not just in...
I've lived through that.
Does it happen for both of you? And I'm not just talking about this particular show, where you've read something that's so interesting, or you're creating something that's so interesting, so you are completely in that zone that this is what I would really
I'll tell you,
want to
for
live
me,
on.
for 2 years, I thought I was Michael Corleone. When I was 18, 19, 20, I thought I was Michael Corleone. I perfected everything. But really, it is bizarre. So that happens. Or you get attracted to a character that you're reading in a book also, very much. For me, it was Prince Mishkin in The Idiot of Dostoevsky's. I didn't think I was the idiot. I still thought I was Michael Corleone.
So coming back to the show, it's like you said, it's a big cast with so many characters. So as a director, what happens when there are like these many people that you have to talk to? Of course, they're all talented. Of course, you have names, and somebody sitting right here who is already saying he's going to.
But the word actor is not like when I came to Bombay, and I work with people in the institute, so I'm kind of through my brother and many people from the film institute. Right? I'm not from the film institute. So there used to be this word called handling actors. So everybody used to say handle. So you don't handle actors, you work with them.
Right.
And every actor is different, right? With some, there's not much to be said, right? With some, you have to explain the political context of the country because they want to understand it before they play a scene. With, say, somebody like Om Puri, what you said at the last minute works. Nawaz totally submits himself to you. There may be a younger person who needs more help. I just did a show, the other show, and there was a small character, a girl came in from Lucknow, and she was playing the neighbor in a very small part. And I just did a kind of rough rehearsal. I said, you come here. And the way she did it, I didn't say anything to her. I directed her like I might direct Nasiruddin Shah, I didn't say anything. Because she was so bang on, I couldn't correct her. So half the time, the casting does the job, like he says. You cast the that's a very nice word, I'm going to steal it. That you borrow part of their being. Right? For their presence, the casting becomes really key. And there's a wonderful bunch of actors who fortunately get along a lot with each other. This is, amazing in this show. And much of it has to do with Manav. He's kind of like, it's pretty expensive, but he makes up every night a party. Yeah, it's very good. The way he, even the smaller actors who may not be working every day, who are hanging around watching. Sometimes it's terrible to watch everybody doing a scene and you hanging around in one point, on the roof with a gun, a sniper, the way he builds it and the way they've come together. So when you have scenes of them together, then, there's a kind of camaraderie which works. So I find it, with this bunch, I found it very, very... And I kind of love actors. I'm very grateful to them because they bring that character that you've sort of written and thought of. So you're watching it, so like watching that come to life, let's say on the first day, is very beautiful. It's to see the person, another person come. That's what we make films for those moments. Otherwise, we should quit.
So I want to know, when you're making something that's such a complex show with so many layers, so many characters, what does that research process and duration look like? I know, okay, there is a bare bones framework that you're picking from a different show. What does that look like? And how big a team does the research for it?
See, first of all, give credit where credit is due.
Right.
So, Tanaav is a show which is adapted from Fauda, which Sameer Nair of Applause thought we should make. So let's give credit to Sameer Nair. Let's say, so there's a whole Applause team there that does the research. I provide the context and a viewpoint. So I'm not going to shoot something that I disagree with. Right? So we have these wonderful arguments and we reach out. But if you, I tend not to do things about which I have to do much research. Right? So I know Kashmir. If you come to my house, there'll be sometimes 20 Kashmiri bundles there. Many of my gurus like M.K. Rana and all whom I used in the first season, they were my teachers, right? Are Kashmiri Pandits, right? His guru Manikal was a Kashmiri. So we know Kashmir. It's part of not just as a tourist. And we may disagree with the official line or not. So, and then for specifics like a house and mother and the exact Zuban and that you do research, of course.
And what is it like shooting there now? I mean, of course, like I said, the political situation may not have changed for the show in a different, because it's pre, Article 370 and everything. But what is because that is what I was curious about, because what happens often, for example, if you've never visited Kashmir, my filtering process is through somebody else's photographs or a movie I have watched. And it can go both ways. Sometimes people are only showing itni khoobsurat hai, Dal Lake pe hi sab log baithe
You've been to Kashmir?
No, I'm not. That's why I said ki I am speaking for a lot of people who basically have never been, और उनके दिमाग में Dal Lake आता है, और बाकी लोगों को होता है, oh, it's heavily secure. Like every time I have heard, like my friends.
I've been many times to Kashmir as a child, and
Right.
Since then. And I remember in 2011 I went for some shoot, and we were shooting in Dal Lake for Midnight's Children, 3 days shoot. And I was in Dal Lake, and I was saying, this is another civilization. I felt that so strong. And you've traveled the world, you've been to China, but all these places are now the same in a way. The same building, same structure, same infrastructure, same language also. But I was on the Shikara and there were other people, Kashmiris around, and I said, this could be 2000 years back. It could be Iran, it could be, it's really like another civilization. And it's still there. That kind of a distant land, still exists. And yet, it's also very modern and very today.
No, the people are lovely. There's no problem at all. I mean, where else will you be shooting in the middle of the street, disturbing people, and the shopkeepers will give you bread and chai? And one guy who's head of some mazar and someone will say, "Aapke liye main Pathani sila ke lata hu." And no, actually got it done.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of the street. So it's amazing. I mean, very, very, you have minor issues which you have to deal with. We had none. We had almost none. But you have to also be conscious of that you're intruding.
Right.
You have to be conscious of days where you can't shoot.
But that any shooting anywhere, even when you shoot in Bombay, you have to be.
Please go.
Yeah.
To start with Pahalgam because it's touristy but beautiful and very. So then you'll then go very many places.
It's really, really beautiful. And they've been saying this at Switzerland of India. First time I went to Switzerland, I said, my God, this is Kashmir.
So the reverse of
Yeah.
Yeah, you should go inside Dal. And Dal is the largest constituency in Kashmir. People live there. You go behind, and behind there is a village. And there are shops. And then you stand at a distance, and in a lone shikara, a small boat, a girl is coming. You know who that girl is, you ask. And she's going to school in that shikara. People have not, shown Kashmir the way. There's life there, throbbing, people wanting the same things, life. So I think it's beautiful. I mean, and like the civilization, the kindness of the people is quite amazing. And everybody has a house. Yeah, so whatever. You a guy who drives a car, he'll take you somewhere because his brother is getting married and he's living in a 3-storied house. You know, and this the sense of family is really strong. And now I know Kashmir really well because I've been going there a lot, and now with really well meaning as much as an outsider can. But it's beautiful. I'd love to live there if I wasn't slightly scared.
But like because you said that these are, and of course most people haven't visited the place. Of course, that's how it is. So do you think somewhere there has been a problem of, I don't know, translating, like you said, ki life even in a conflict zone? Again, like I said, I'm from a certain conflict zone. I have grown up with buns and bomb blasts being fairly normal.
Wow.
Like when I tell this, and I did not realize, of course, at that time when you are in school, you don't know this is not normal, quote unquote. And I'm from Assam. So at least 90s was the peak of insurgency, and we've had equal instances of, Alpha. So there were like days where you would sit on a bus and you're going. I'm not saying there was an immediate danger, but like midway, the bus has decided to turn back because there is some band announced by some organization, and who wants to take a risk? It's not like parents want to take a risk. It's not the school authorities who want to take a risk. For us, it's a chutti. That's all that matters anyway. One of our fathers, again, I said in the Catholic school, they said that when they were posted back in, I think, Manipur, Nagaland, he said that, the most amazing thing, like I don't know whether to call it amazing or problematic, was that there was this loud noise in one of the valley schools, and all the children immediately, without the teacher having to say, went straight under the desk. It was normal. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's the normal, which is interesting here, because what and how are you, which is the standard against which you're placing that normal. So I understand that. Sometimes, however, I feel like these intricacies get lost. For me, like I said, it was shooty. It was not, I did not understand.
But another experience, you have talked to a Kashmiri who experiences.
Right.
I mean, that's another, we are, whatever, however much I say I know, I'm an outsider. Right? The experience of being a person from there is totally different. It's outside the purview of this interview. I know a lot of them there.
Right.
So it's a complicated thing. It's geopolitics. It's not easy, right? I mean, it's not a bleeding heart type could say, do this, but then something else will happen. But I mean, it's a tough place, Kashmir, and I don't think people should see it just as tourists.
Right.
Because I mean, tourism, theek hai, ye wo, which is very condescending, some kind of a North Indian way of saying apna choti ki jagah hai,
Right.
Bengali choti jagah pe rahega, Gujarati और बड़े जगह पे रहेगा, but that kind of thing, ललित की 25,000 रुपए पर डे का होगा वहाँ पे, यहाँ वहाँ का जो ललित है, so that's okay, but I think the aspirations of the younger people there should be given more thought.
So this is actually the last question. Is actually a very personal, fun question. It's basically, since you both have been to Kashmir a lot of times and you really like it, tell me about the favorite food from there that you both like. I'm a big foodie, so मेरा question घूम के खाने पे आ जाता है, unfortunately.
वो कश्मीर में तो क्या सभी को अच्छा है, पूरा वाजवान, you can't eat that every day.
Right.
I discovered that kamal kakadi wala sabzi, I don't know what it's called. Very, very nice.
हाँ, नदरू.
Nadu.
नदरू कमाल है वहाँ का. I try and stay, when I go, I try and stay not in a hotel.
Okay.
So I find an Airbnb run by people who are from there, and I tend to eat food cooked by their chef. Because otherwise, every hotel is the same. Every breakfast is the same, right? Hotel are like cantonments, no? For the corporate warrior to go to war, So he knows everything, But so if you go there, so you stay in Rajbagh, which is a fancy place, but then you can walk across the bridge. You can meet a tailor who stitches your clothes, Right, and you go to a Nai, so you know life a bit, right? So you should go to Adu's. If you haven't been, when you go there, there's a restaurant called Adu's, right? Where you'll get all sorts of Kashmiri food.
और बताइए कश्मीर टूरिज्म के लिए क्या करें?
So that ends our really interesting, I think, chat where we talk about Kashmir. We talk, of course, about Tanaav and how the two come together in this latest season, which is coming out in September. So do watch, and also for more interviews like this, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.